And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. It's the end of the year. Find your next ride at Stokes Volkswagen. Again, StokesVW.com. We're here till 2 o'clock this afternoon. Find us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines, they are open, and they're already happening. We welcome all of you today. This is Darren and myself, our final day before the Thanksgiving holiday, and then we'll return Friday morning at 10 o'clock for JB and Goldwater and the big Gamecock preview show, which this week will involve the Clemson Tigers. Rivalry week in addition to the Thanksgiving holiday, so much to get to and so much to have some fun with. We've moved JC Sherbert up a day since he generally joins us tomorrow, but we'll be off tomorrow because Darren is going to go to Florida and see his family for Thanksgiving. I'll be getting ready for Thanksgiving with my family, and so we're gonna miss all of you, but that's okay, Darren. We'll see them all pretty soon. And then Mike Morgan's going to join us today at 12:30. Keith Allsep at about 1:30 or so. So it's a full boat. We got a bunch of hoops to get into. We're going to talk more about some of these college football openings. Maybe Florida is already close to hiring a head coach. Maybe, I don't know. The rumors are out there and they're heating up. So we'll dig into that a little bit tonight. The college football playoff will release another round of rankings. I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to look like. I think the only question is probably who's 2 and who's 3. So we'll talk about that, and we'll rank some rivalry games. And I'll tell you, Darren, you and probably a lot of people will be a little bit surprised by my rivalry rankings. And I have a reason for it. And everybody, if I asked Craig to rank his, I'd have to be respectful of his answer. I asked him to do something, right? So you give me your best shot. So when we get to that here in just a little bit, I think some people are going to go, wait, what? But I'll explain it. Don't worry. I put some thought into this. With all that being said, Darren's dressed us up for Thanksgiving as Turkey Day is only a couple of days away. So we hope that y'all just all have a wonderful week. I hope a lot of you. I hope today's your last day of work like it is for us for a couple of days. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm rolling with the hat today. It's already I don't know if it's a vacation per se, because it's like a really quick trip. It's get off the show today, pack, taking the equipment down so we can do the show down there. It's just me and Grayson, and we're there for 2 days and coming back, but it'll be good. It'll be good to see the family. Speaking of, the Citadel has been part of my family in a sense for a long, long time. It was one of the first things I was doing down here. Yeah. If you've watched this show or listened to the show since it started, you know how much I respect and like Duggar Baucom as a person more than a basketball coach. I covered him when he was at VMI prior to getting the Citadel job, and I campaigned pretty hard. Meaningless, but I tried for him to get the Citadel job and was thrilled with how they finished last year. So thoughts with him, thoughts with the family. I'm trying to get an update, but last we heard, after his collapse on the court last night is what the associate head coach said, that he was obviously in pain, but he was alert. He spent the night in the Duke University Hospital. Have not gotten confirmation that he did, in fact, come back with the team today or not, or if they've even left yet. But hopefully at some point today, we'll have some type of update on Duggar Baucom. And if you don't know, there is a lengthy history of heart problems. His dad died. His brother died. He's had over a handful of heart surgeries. So it's a scary moment.
Yeah, it is. I actually had not cut the game on yet last night. I was planning to check into it and just see how the dogs were doing. I thought it would probably be a long night for them up there, and they actually, of course, played really well for a long time before fading down the stretch, which is to be expected. You're at Duke. So I actually hopped on Twitter for a second and saw Iceberg's updates because he was doing a masterful job. Shout out to Channel 4's legendary sports director, Scott Iceberg, for his coverage, him and Natalie Spalla.
Yes.
Natalie Spalla's coverage of this ball game at Cameron. And that's when I kind of checked in and saw what was going on. And I texted you this morning asking if you knew an update. But I really liked after the game. And Darren, what's the assistant coach's name who took over for the Citadel?
I want to say it's Castleberry.
Yeah, Castleberry. He said something that was, I'm so glad he said it. He was talking about Duggar's toughness. And I've spoken with Duggar a handful of times. I do not know him like you, but the handful of times that I've spoken with him, you instantly figured out. I mean, back when I was with ESPN, he used to come sit in the studio here and there with us.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this guy's special. And I talked to him. I knew his story. For those that don't know, he used to be a state trooper. Darren, I think he's been shot.
The heart issues pulled him off the road, right? And then he ended up back in college, and that's where he got a job with Bob McKillop and Davidson, and then he gets the VMI job and figured one day, based on Loyola Marymount and a hybrid of some other previous stuff, he's like, let's try this. And then he became the offense, the embrace the pace that succeeded for a time at VMI and has started to show its returns down at the Citadel. So he just went a awkward route. At a time, they thought the heart issues were behind him. And then I think it was 06 or 08. What was it? It was 06 when he had 5 heart surgeries. Those were additional in 5 different hospitals at that time. So, I mean, you see someone who has that history collapse, it's scary. So I'm genuinely hopeful and thinking about him and thinking about the family. Yeah. And, they said last night, if you don't know this guy's story, you need to look it up. Mm-hmm.
It's a great story, and I really enjoyed the pregame meeting between him and Coach K, and that was really neat. I'm glad Scotty got that audio. That's great stuff. If you haven't seen it, Channel 4's got it. Follow Scott Iceberg on Twitter. We'll give him a big shout out here. Just a wonderful job in covering. So when they lose last night, they ended up losing, I think, 107-81, but played really well for a long time, and you had to figure that those players, the whole time, they were wondering what's going on with their coach while they're out there trying to play basketball. Anyways, nonetheless, the Dogs are still 3-2. They got SC State coming up on Sunday. Great experience for them last night, Cameron Indoor. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a SoCon team like the Citadel. So congratulations to them. Duggar, he is in our thoughts and prayers, and as soon as Darren gets an update, we're going to give that to you.
Yep.
We'll pass it along, and if it's after the show, I'm sure, Darren, you can tweet that out. And, And we'll keep everybody informed on that. Carolina plays tonight. They've got Wofford at 7 on the SEC Network Plus. Also last night in college hoops, Charleston Southern was at Georgia Tech. They fell 85-70, and the College of Charleston was in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Boy, that's a tough place to play. And Oklahoma State made it much more difficult with how good they played. 96-66, the final score there. And so all losses last night in the state of South Carolina, but all major contests as well. Tonight, though, if you're a college hoops fan, tonight, later on this evening, is a good night for you. In addition to our in-state game with South Carolina taking on Wofford, in the top 25 at 9:30, this is one that snuck up on some people. It's on ESPN2. the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City, 5-0 Cincinnati, and 13th ranked Arkansas, and they're 4-0 on the year. And yeah, that's pretty good until you get to 10 o'clock on ESPN. It's 1 versus 2. We saw 1 versus 2 yesterday in women with the Gamecocks working UConn down in the Bahamas to win the Battle for Atlantis championship. Gonzaga and UCLA tonight, 1-2 matchup in the Good Sam Empire Classic in Vegas from T-Mobile Arena. So some great late night hoops if you're going to be up and you want to watch that, Darren. I'm really, really looking forward to checking that out, because I don't have to work tomorrow. It'll just be show prep and a couple of Thanksgiving cooking things, and that's it.
I watched a bunch of basketball last night. I didn't even watch any of the Monday Night Football game. So I'll say this about College of Charleston. I thought started well, and I think it's a really good win for Oklahoma State. They played the college's game, which is, it fits into what they want to do, get up and down the floor, and they just flat out outraced the College of Charleston, who couldn't shoot the ball worth a lick. For tonight, Dick Vitale, who's 82, is going to be back behind the mic after the cancer diagnosis. He's been cleared. So this will be his first game back, and it's 1 versus 2. And for Cincinnati, that's Wes Miller. Remember UNC Greensboro's coach, who was floated around for a lot of different jobs as he started to really keep the Spartans elevated in the conference. He's got him at 4-0. They just hammered Kofi Coburn and Illinois, because Coburn's back, and they came from behind to do it. Wes Miller might have a team with Cincinnati here, so keep an eye on them. They've also got a win over Georgia already this year too.
Yeah, Wes Miller is he is a heck of a basketball coach. So I'll be anxious to see what the rest of the year looks like for him. Yet, like you said, he was rumored for a bunch of jobs. He certainly got one, but his whatever
trajectory
as a coach is.
Yeah, because look, it's 2 years. If you can keep this up, then you're in the Big 12 and doing it. So
real quick update from Williams-Brice Stadium for those planning to attend the ball game this week. It's certainly going to be chilly. If you're planning to attend and you say, "Well, I haven't got any tickets yet," well, you better hurry up. There's at most a couple hundred tickets left. That's it, and they're expecting this to be sold out. There are some retail value tickets out there, but those are going to be above market price. I think the cheapest one I've seen right now is about $80-something. So there's still a few tickets left in the upper deck if you want to grab some of those. The lower bowl is completely sold out, and looks like it's going to be a sellout. The first one of the season at Williams-Brice Stadium for the Gamecocks and the Tigers in the Palmetto Bowl. We're going to talk so much about that game today with Mike Morgan, JC Sherbert, and Keith Allsep, all who know a lot about it. And covering it and being there for ball games. So certainly looking forward to getting into all that. Before we get into some other rivalry stuff, Darren, tonight the college football playoff will release a new set of rankings. I'm kind of assuming here that you and I are on about the same page. I think, well, Georgia will be 1. I do think Ohio State's going to jump Bama. And I think they should. I think Ohio State should be, at this point in time, probably ranked 2nd in the country. I think Bama will slip to 3, and I think Cincinnati, for the first time, is going to get in there at 4. What do you think?
I'm right there with you. I think by trend, OSU, because of how they're playing, I think they'll likely get that bump over Alabama. Recency bias, right? It'll work itself out. We'll see what happens this week. We'll see what happens next week, or if it's in 2 weeks for the conference championship games. But yeah, and then Cincinnati probably finds their way in. This is working itself out. That's the way it typically happens throughout the year. It's really jammed up with a couple weeks left. It kind of starts to sift its way through. And we're at a position right now where if everything holds true, Cincinnati, do your part with ECU and Houston. If everything holds true, then this ranking could very well be the ranking you see at the end of the year.
Yes, I don't disagree with you. Here's what I'm really interested in. If the committee keeps Bama at 2, okay, that sends a huge signal here. Clearly, if Bama loses to Auburn, it's not all but over, because they theoretically could turn around in the SEC championship game and quote unquote throttle Georgia, which is very unlikely to happen. Obviously, I'm just saying things that could actually happen.
I'm assuming they're not going to lose to Auburn. When I say if it holds true,
yes, no, I get that. I get that. I'm with you. I'm assuming they don't lose to Auburn, but if they slide to 3 tonight, Darren, and they beat Auburn but fall to Georgia, I don't see them getting in with 2 losses. If they stay at 2 and they lose a tight one to Georgia, 3 points, 2 points, something like that, I think there's really a chance that they can get in there with 2 losses because they would be at number 2. But if you're at 3, I don't know. I don't see it. So, I mean, there's so much still. I mean, look, here's a reality up for Cincinnati. Don't let it bite you in the butt if you get 4 because you still got to play at East Carolina on Friday. And I don't care what the 14-point spread says. They are on upset alert. I'm telling you, Mike Houston's team is going to be ready to play. And I think that there's a really good chance that they could lose this game. What I'm really anxious to see is Michigan and Ohio State play this weekend. If Ohio State knocks off Michigan, we'll see what happens with Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes Notre Dame, just backdooring their way right in again. Same story, different year. Everybody's pissed off. Oh, wait, Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. Wait, Notre Dame and so you have a whole different argument coming down the road if a couple of things happen.
Notre Dame, Oklahoma State can throw a big old wrench into this if certain things kind of allow that to happen. I think if Bama is 2 or 3 and the game is close, I mean, like an intense back and forth, you really don't know who's going to win the game until the later stages of the game type close, then it'll be hard, I think, to knock them out. If they get blown out in any scenario, then I think they're out. Whether they're 2 or 3, if it's Georgia convincingly, I'm not saying like 20, 30 points, but convincingly, I mean, they're obviously the better team, then I can see Bama with 2 losses in that scenario not getting in.
Totally.
And then it's, all right, Cincy, did you finish up with your 2 wins here? Have you earned your spot in? Notre Dame, have you finished strong? And are you hurt by not playing in a championship game? Or are you helped by not playing in the ACC this year? And what's going to happen with Oklahoma State? So I think we're kind of down to that group. That's it, right? 6 teams.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, I totally agree with all that. And we all keep talking in this sense of Bama. Well, if they quote unquote keep it close against, or if they win, they're in. But if they quote unquote keep it close with Georgia, I'm beginning to lean a little bit more on the other side of this thing. I don't know they're going to keep it particularly close. I really don't. Yeah, they've got some nice wins lately, but when Bama wasn't. Look, Arkansas. I have a lot of respect for Arkansas, and they're a pretty good football team. But a 7-point win at home over Arkansas to get into the college football playoff, that is an impressive win. But is it a college football playoff impressive type win if you have 2 losses? I think the answer would be no. And then when you look at LSU, who is on the fringe of not even making a bowl game, and you barely beat them by 6 at home just a couple of weeks prior to that, Darren, I think the answer there would also be no. So, the win over Tennessee, the win over Mississippi State, there's no doubt they stand out because Mississippi State has proven that they're a very respectable football team, and Tennessee's a very respectable football team too. But what have you done for me lately when you have 2 losses? If you have 2 losses comes into play here. And, if they squeak by Auburn this week, it's they're really, really fringe worthy. And if they get in, you can already hear the narrative. If they don't, there's going to be a lot of celebration across the country to give somebody else a crack at this thing. And by my count, this will be the first time ever without both Alabama and Clemson.
If Alabama squeaks by Auburn, they're going to drop again. I mean, they'll drop before the rankings next week, before they even play Georgia. If that game's even close, then Alabama will fall. I mean, regardless of what happens around them, there are enough teams that can then jump Alabama, a 1-loss Bama with a close loss to Auburn on the heels of what's been happening. I think that drops them already. Not out, but it puts them on the precipice of saying, we probably got to go beat Georgia if we want to get in.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. How can I help you? iHelpConsulting.com helps so many across this state. They've saved over $50,000 for a healthcare facility, over $40,000 for an auto repair shop. There's companies in the state of South Carolina that reach out to them for even things that we deem as quote unquote little, but they're really not. Finding savings in phone bills or in internet bills or in different utility bills, a lot of payment processing fees out there that you have no idea you shouldn't be paying with whatever company you're using. They find it quickly. Daniel Owens owns iHelp Consulting. If you are a business owner, listen here. All of you all that are always commenting, our friends here, you're really our family. If you're a business owner, if your dad's a business owner, if your brother, your neighbor, your wife, your child, your children, whoever, if you know a business owner, do yourself a favor. This is very easy. I'm literally, the sky's blue. That's a fact. This is also a fact. If you go to ihelpconsulting.com and you say, yeah, I'd like to just look into maybe if I can save a few bucks, we'd like to make some upgrades with equipment. We'd like to hire another employee, whatever it is. Go to ihelpconsulting.com. Just read about them. Do your research. Call, or you can text Daniel Owens. The number's right there, right on the front screen. Tell him what you're wanting to do. He'll talk to you. There's no fee to have a conversation. You send him your information. He'll look at it. And if he determines there's savings, a few $100, a few $1,000, tens of thousands of dollars, who knows, then you can work out a deal. And that deal, you pay him a percentage of the savings. It's not like you have to pay him a fee and then he'll go do this, that, and the other. No. Once you start saving the money, you pay them. iHelpConsulting.com. Daniel is a lifelong South Carolinian. He loves this state. He's a great person. I'm honored to call him a friend now, and definitely a partner of our program. iHelpConsulting.com this holiday season. All right, Darren, into the Florida situation here. I saw on the Share Healthcare chat lines just a little bit ago. Where was it? Who was this? Clint. Clint said on the Share Healthcare chat lines, not sure I'd fire Dan Mullen to hire Billy Napier. And he's got some rivalry stuff there as well, which we're going to get into in just a little bit. Yeah, look, so strange. So Florida has kind of an awkward football history, if you really think about it. Like, everybody thinks that Florida is some traditional power in the sport, which, 30 years or so speaking, they are. But before that, they weren't.
Yeah, they're recent power, not a traditional power.
Yeah, exactly. And so Spurrier comes to Florida, right? And he makes the Gators into this juggernaut that literally nobody had ever seen in college football. Nobody had done what they were doing from an offensive standpoint. And then Steve leaves, and they struck it rich with Urban Meyer, and they win a couple of national championships. So, but outside of those two coaches, not a whole lot has happened down there. I mean, you're talking about Ron Zook. You're talking about Coach Muschamp. You're talking about what's JC calling the swamp donkey, Coach McElwain. You're talking about Dan Mullen. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody, right?
You got most of that list. There's not anyone that's jumping out
Mullen
immediately.
Mullen, McElwain, Muschamp followed Urban Meyer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and before Urban was Ron Zook and Spurrier.
That worked awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So, they look in the last 20 years since Steve left for the Redskins, they've gone through a decent amount of head coaches. They pull the trigger down there pretty quickly because of their expectations, their fan base, and things of that nature. And we're going to talk to Mike about this here in a minute, because I feel like, I don't know about you, man, but I always feel like Mike Morgan has a really neat and interesting perspective on a lot of these coaching situations. And maybe they land Billy Napier. There's a lot of smoke around his name right now. But as it stands today, the list of coaches that we keep seeing for Florida is the same list of coaches that all these other teams have. And, I don't know how much better they're going to get with whomever they hire. It's such a crapshoot. I mean, that last search, they did not get Scott Frost. They did not get Chip Kelly. They did get Dan Mullen, who was more successful than both of them early in his tenure, and he's been fired before both of them. It's amazing. Which I just don't know. I don't understand that. So, I don't. What does this mean? Who do they get? Who's a home run? I don't know if there's a home run. I've seen people throw Bob Stoops around. I don't know that Bob Stoops is a home run. He's a great football coach. He'd be a wonderful fit down there. But I don't know that Bob Stoops wants to walk into that. I mean, if you don't overtake Georgia in the next couple of years, you're already on the hot seat. What's he need that for? I don't know that he needs it. It's probably going to be. I
mean, that's inherent with a lot of these jobs right now, that if you're not going to win quickly, then there will be a warm seat, warmer in some places than in others, like LSU. But is it set up a little bit better? The perception is that it's set up at Florida a little bit better than some other spots, maybe because of what Spurrier did. But if you take it in a big macro picture here, there isn't a Florida school that's having a ton of success right now. So why? Florida and Florida State are playing. That almost didn't make the graphic. The only reason it made my rivalry week graphic is because they're playing for bowl eligibility, and it's Florida and Florida State. So I don't know where it stands. It, to me, should have some appeal. The Swamp is it's become a legendary type of place. You theoretically should be able to go in and win there. But you should be able to go into Florida State and win pretty quickly too. And Mike Norvell, I mean, maybe he's on to something now, but I don't know. I wouldn't put that over Southern Cal. I wouldn't put it over LSU. I'd put it over TCU though.
You talking about the job itself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten it, and I see David's comment there. Candidates are the same, but 3 programs are A destinations: LSU, USC, and Florida. And you're absolutely spot on with that. I mean, when you look at the open jobs, that's tier 1. Tier 2 is Virginia Tech, Washington State, Texas Tech's already been filled. TCU is in tier 2. That is, there's no doubt that's true. But the landscape. I did an interview with somebody yesterday on another station, and we were kind of talking about this situation, how it might shake up the SEC East and things of that nature. And I don't know that any of us actually have any real answers anymore. And here's why: because the landscape of the sport has changed so much in literally a year. With the transfer portal, Darren, you're expected to be able to go out and get kids, and they come in and not necessarily instant success, but quicker success than the previous thought of, well, everybody deserves 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's gone, because we all have so much access to the information that these guys have, and most notably, you can go get kids much easier. Like everybody already says, it's a rebuild. Well, if it's a rebuild, that means you need players, right? Well, it's easier to get players now than it was. At least that's how it's perceived. So if that's the case, the destination spot for me might be a little bit different from the destination spot for somebody else. I mean, I can tell you right now, of all of these jobs out here, if someone said, look, wherever every job is offered to you, which one do you want? I want Virginia Tech.
Oh, I didn't think you'd go there. I've said that's been a consistent thing for me forever in a lot of these coaching searches. It comes down to what you, the individual, value, how you, the individual, see it. Yeah, the money, other factors are in there. But if you equal out the playing field, then it comes down to, do I want to make the move? Am I more comfortable here, whether it's family, success, whatever? Do I want a new challenge? And is that the challenge I want? All of us can sit here and talk about the jobs all we want. At the end of the day, I mean, I've said this about Franklin now for all year because his name's been tied to Southern Cal. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, even though right now there are rumors that there's about to be an announcement with Penn State and Franklin, which isn't surprising at this point either. At the end of the day, it comes down to what you want and what you as a person see in your future. Do you want to go build something else? Are you comfortable here? Do you want change? Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it is.
And with all the pressure that's already at these big gigs like Florida, LSU, Southern Cal, it's added pressure with the changing landscape. Places like Virginia Tech are still going to give you some wiggle room there. And that's what I'm saying. If it was all created equal and you're like, you just pick whatever job you want and you basically write your own check, give me Vatech. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Give me Vatech. There's one constant in the ACC with the exception of this year, and that's Clemson. Outside of that, it is a total crapshoot. and it's a place that gives you some time and all those type things. So we're going to get more into that. Everybody just hang on. We do have Mike Morgan standing by. Let's hit a timeout, Darren. When we return, ESPN and the SEC Network's wonderful, amazing voice, Mike Morgan, joins us here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. Well, we're not going to work tomorrow, Darren, or Thursday. JB and Goldwater off the next couple of days. We will be back to work 10 a.m. on Friday for JB and Goldwater and the Big Gamecock Preview Show, post-Thanksgiving and into Rivalry Weekend. This guy knows a thing or two about rivalries. He's been around them for his whole career. He's one of the best voices in sports, and we're honored to have him every week on our program. It is Mike Morgan with literally every sports media outlet available. What's up, man?
Including JC and Morgan. I understand you're going to have JC on later. We just dropped a nice podcast yesterday to get everybody geared up for Rivalry Week, talking about the coaching news at Florida, and which of course affects LSU, which affects Southern Cal, which affects Virginia Tech, which affects TCU, and so on and so forth. And I heard you guys during the break talking about it. Looks like Penn State, despite the fact he's 11-9 in his last 20 games, Darren, is going to make sure that they hold on to James Franklin, which at one point was kind of the masterpiece on the chessboard for all of this. So if you take him out of the equation,
now things get even extra interesting. But at any rate, happy Thanksgiving week to you guys, and hope everything is well.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your new bride. Y'all get to spend Thanksgiving with your family?
Yes. Well, with her family, I'm heading back to Kentucky, and going to spend some time there before I go back to the road. I've got a basketball game in Gainesville in a few days, and then
just stop in the football building and report back to us.
Yeah, exactly. No, these next 2 months are crazy, but I'll get a chance to watch a lot of the rivalry games like you guys will, and it's always a fun time. Although when you look at the point spreads, so many of these rivalry games are really lopsided. I mean, once you take out Michigan, Ohio State, you got a lot of like heavy favorites in these rivalry games. I know the cliche is anything can happen in a rivalry game, but really when you put it under the microscope, more often than not, the better team actually wins.
Well, except Thursday, the Egg Bowl, and this week.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because Haney asked me on the podcast, like, okay, other than Michigan, Ohio State, if you could pick one game, I was like, that's easy. It's the Egg Bowl, man. That is the most intriguing Egg Bowl. I know 2013 was a really big one when they were both ranked, but this thing is fascinating to me. So I can't wait for that one.
They should call it the Deviled Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving Day because I love deviled eggs. But only my mom's, not the store-bought stuff. It's got to be mayonnaise-based deviled eggs from my mom's kitchen.
Well, it's only fitting that mayonnaise would be mentioned in the same term as devil eggs because you know my theory on mayonnaise. It's the condiment of the devil.
I don't like it either, and maybe that's why I don't like deviled egg. But I thought it was like the only one.
It's such a divisive topic too. Like when I say that, and I say it, it's obviously partially a joke. Although I could see the devil like churning a big bucket of mayo in hell. But no, there are people that they get really defensive about their mayo, and they want you to know about it. So for all the people tuning in, I respect mayonnaise lovers throughout America and the world. I have nothing against you personally. It's just not for me.
For those that don't know, Mike will be calling this year's Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Yeah,
on December 30th.
I thought about that. I thought about what if I get assigned to that? Do I have to just every time I mentioned it, do I have to just kind of it's cringeworthy to me.
Yeah, I can hear the truck backing up now. Beep, beep. I love mayonnaise. Somebody dump one of these jars.
Can't get enough. I put it on my pizza.
Yeah. No, I did have I had a BLT last night with Duke's mayo, and there's nothing better.
See, I love BLT, but I would never
mayonnaise,
put mayo on it.
No, man, the bacon, the tomato, that's more than enough.
You
add some avocado if you want.
Oh, I'm an avocado fan. Good avocado, got to be good avocado now.
Yeah, of course.
That cheap shipped in stuff. All right, well, you mentioned Florida, and I do want to get to some rivalry stuff with you. We'll lump Clemson and Carolina to that, so much obviously about this series this weekend. But so first of all, I just want to get we haven't talked to you. I want to get your thoughts on them firing Dan Mullen after he fired Todd Grantham and his O-line coach. After they fired assistants last year, it was like save face. Okay, that's it. You're out.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all this?
Well, I thought he was going to get another year. I knew Grantham was going to be gone. I thought he'd get another year, but I didn't think he would go on a 4-game SEC losing streak. I didn't think he'd lose to Missouri. I didn't think he'd struggle to beat Samford and then dance in the locker room afterward. The last few weeks of Dan Mullen remind me of just how the pressure of these jobs can really take over one's soul. Dan looked like a guy who needed a hug for a month. Didn't look like he was having any fun. Clearly, the pressure, the criticism, all that was getting to him. They're canceling press conferences. It's just all the signs are out there that it was really getting less and less enjoyable for Dan. There was clearly a divide with the fans. One thing I'll say is he never lost the players. Like, there's not this dissension among the rank, not the kind of stuff you were hearing at LSU with Ed Orgeron. Like, Dan is a players coach, and a lot of the players came out and really spoke up for Dan Mullen. But at the end of the day, that really doesn't matter. What matters is where the program is heading. I was just in Georgia calling the Georgia game this past weekend, and so like any other situation, when I have that, I put them under the microscope. And it's Kirby Smart's 6th year. It's Dan Mullen's 4th year. And in Kirby in 6 years, and it didn't take him 6 years, but he's taken Georgia and turned them into a behemoth. That is a program that is absolutely firing on all cylinders. This is not a one-year wonder, whether or not they win the title or lose to Bama or whatever the case may be. Georgia's going to be back next year and the year after that. Like, I'm calling, and of course it's a blowout, so I'm calling the 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks, but I'm looking up their bios, and they're all like 5-star kids. And then they got another 5-star commitment who was a South Carolina commitment, who's coming. I mean, it's just like they are at a whole other level. They're tight ends out of Napa, California. They got another kid out of Washington State. They got another player out of California. Like, they are right now, they're Alabama light, and they're not that far away from Alabama. Kirby has built that. I think the Florida fan, it's not just the winning, like the winning percentage, it's not that bad under Dan Mullen, but it is trying to forecast where is it heading. And I think finally Scott Strickland, with the help, I'm sure, of some very vociferous boosters, said, hey, it's not heading in the same direction Georgia is. And if we can't compete with Georgia, other than 1 year where a bunch of players that Dan didn't even recruit were the key guys, then maybe we need to start looking elsewhere. And so here it is. So on one hand, I thought he was going to get another year. On the other hand, that Missouri loss combined with a couple of other things, I was like, this could happen any minute. And of course it did.
So this is going to be 4, 7, 10, 11. This will be their 4th coach in 12 years. Since Urban Meyer's last season.
How about this one? How about this one, Jamie, guys? The last 3 coaches, none of them have made it to 50 games.
Yeah. And what's crazy about that? Of these last 3 coaches, they've all won the division. I mean, Muschamp won it. McElwain won it twice. Mullen won it last year.
Yeah. I'm not going to try to take away anything, but
oh, I get it. That doesn't matter to them. You just hit the nail on the head. You got it.
Yeah.
Georgia
and
win
the 2
SEC.
that McElwain won. It wasn't a great look. The Eastern Division. Let's be honest. Going back a ways, had a really down time, and during that time, Missouri went to 2 SEC championship games, and McElwain went to 2 SEC championship games. And I'm not trying to take away anything from Carolina, but Carolina made an SEC championship game in 2010. But basically, all those teams were like the sacrificial lamb in Atlanta for whoever came out of the West.
That's right.
Now the East is a different deal. Like, Georgia is the best that they've ever been for this sustained period of time. Kentucky has been good, not just like a nice, heartwarming story. They've been good. And Tennessee seems to be on the way up, and Florida looked like was on the way up. So I think now these coaches in the East realize they really got to step up their game if they're going to have any chance to represent the Eastern Division in Atlanta. Otherwise, it's just going to be Georgia for the rest of time.
Yeah, so I totally agree. And there's some smoke out there, Mike, that maybe they're close to bringing Billy Napier on as their next head coach. Don't know. I have no idea, but I think that's the one that's
the Vegas favorite right now.
Yeah, and it's the hottest rumor out there with some decent people.
You want to know why? Here's where I'm going with this before I even go there, because I've talked about this in relationship with so many other schools. Because it's not about who you want; it's who you can get.
Yeah.
And all these other names
Bingo.
are guys that already have good jobs, that have schools and ADs that can match whatever you offer financially. So just because you're Florida doesn't mean you get whoever you want. So you don't get James Franklin just because you want him. You don't get Lane Kiffin just because you want him. You don't get Mario Cristobal just because you want him. So the safer bet, this is the way Vegas thinks, and my brain is wired this way more times than not, is what is the most realistic guy that you not only think could do a good job, but you can get, and that's Billy Napier. Might not be your number one choice, but it's the number one choice perhaps of the guys without a shadow of a doubt that you can get.
Honestly, I think that could work out better for Napier than if he ends up or LSU ends up with him. I think that could be a better fit for him because it won't be 2-3 years and you haven't done anything. Maybe it's, 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting about all this, guys? Not to interrupt you, because I don't disagree with you either, Darren. What's interesting is all of these schools with how quickly they're firing people. I get it; they have their walls are built of gold. Apparently, they have money floating all over the place. But I mean, all these schools, Florida, LSU, they fire these coaches within a certain realm of time of their latest success. Recent success, and then within a year or two you're out if they don't feel like their trajectory is where they want it to be. They're just costing themselves money, because if you're a coach, like if Mike Morgan was on the market right now, a question I would have for you, Mike, if you were a hot name, would be, why do you want to go to either one of those schools? That you're not making it to 40 or 50 games there if you don't run out and win a national championship or win the SEC, and we all know how difficult that is. And your response, whatever it would be, would have something to do with, yeah, well, that's why my contract is going to be worth X and my buyout is going to be worth X. I'll take the chance, because if they let me go, they're going to pay me $10, $15 million to go away.
Well, yeah, they all have a golden parachute in essence.
Right.
And if you're Billy Napier, and I've heard stories about Billy, who's flirted with a number of SEC jobs, but has kind of he's almost like the Tom Herman of a few years ago. Tom was like, yeah, you can flirt with me, but I'm waiting for Texas. Well, Billy has been flirted with for the number of SEC schools, but clearly he's got a couple of jobs in mind that he's leaving for, and only those jobs he's leaving for. And maybe they believe Florida is one of those jobs. But Billy, not lacking confidence from what I'm told, he is a guy who at some point, if you really think you're that good, you want to do it at higher stakes. So he could stay at Louisiana and win 10 games a year and win conference titles and go to tier 2, tier 3 bowl games and make a good living and not have a whole lot of pressure on you. Or you could say, all right, time to sack up. I'm ready for the big time. Let's do my dance in the SEC. And obviously there are people in Gainesville that believe that that's where he's at mentally.
And we're going to find out, and we're also going to find out how quick some of these decisions are made, Mike. I mean, this is the final game of the season for many teams, regular season, before bowl season. And generally, we know what happens starting Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, and certainly on Sunday. Retired, fired, have agreed to part ways. All those things are coming for other schools. I think there will be many more changes across the sport this weekend. Any that are top of mind to you? I think a lot of us have our eyes on the state of North Carolina for some potential movement up there.
With Mac? Or definitely with Duke.
Yeah, with Duke, Mac. I mean, I would be interested to see what happens with Coach Clawson if he's interested in another position.
Oh, you're not talking about getting fired. You're talking about just
movement in general. I mean, are there guys?
Name is look. I love Clawson. I've done a couple weight games. I love his MO. What's going to hurt Clawson is that I think a lot of people feel like he's in the perfect spot where he is. Like he's in that developmental program mold where he can get the most out of under-recruited players and at an academic school in a league that isn't quite as difficult as the SEC. And that combined with his age, that could hurt him from an opportunity standpoint. But look, I would take a chance on Clawson. I mean, I think he's done brilliant work. He did get a chance to be an OC for 1 year in Knoxville. But yeah, there's a possibility for sure there. I think some people have typecast him in that role. Like, okay, Wake Forest is an entirely different animal for the kind of program we have here.
It's interesting.
Miami too. Keep an eye on that one because that's probably popping open too.
It very well could.
Yeah, I mean, if not
doubt.
this year, next year. You got a new AD coming in, and shoot, I don't know. And then, of course, everybody thinks Lane Kiffin is – because Lane Kiffin went on game day and said he still owns a house in Boca, which, by the way, Boca compared to Miami or Boca compared to Gainesville is like comparing Mars to Saturn or Pluto to Jupiter. Like, they're not the same. We all have to take a little Florida geography lesson. These are not the same areas. They're not particularly close to one another. I mean, Boca is certainly closer to Miami than it is Gainesville. But from a cultural standpoint, they're light years apart.
Yeah, I've been to Boca. That's a you look around and I'm like, man, I don't think I should be here. I don't fit in here. I know that.
You could fit in just fine, Jamie. You would be all right, Boca. You would be fine.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I mean, the old wild and crazy Jamie, you'd be too wild for Boca.
Oh, that guy doesn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah, but married dad Jamie, you could get a nice townhome in Del Boca Vista and just live a peaceful life, and yeah, you'd be fine.
You could fit in better there, and I could too, than South Beach. I wouldn't fit in very well down there.
No, I wouldn't fit in there either. No.
I've never fit in South Beach.
No. Yeah, nothing like a $3 million townhome in Boca. Mike, by the way, quick final nugget on Dan Mullen here. More than likely headed to the Nick Saban School of Rehab, where he'll take over for Bill O'Brien, who will take a head coaching job somewhere. Nick will get their offense going at Bama and right back into it.
I mean, I could see that.
Or into the NFL, one of those two.
Yeah, I could see that too. You know, Dan's offense is not for everybody. Now, to Dan's credit, he evolved. Like Kyle Trask clearly is not Dak Prescott or Emory Jones for that matter. So he evolved and adjusted, and they were ridiculous. Nobody could stop that offense last year. But Dan really is at his most comfortable when he's got a running quarterback and they're doing all types of zone read and whatnot. And I don't know if that's what Nick Saban really wants at Bama. And they don't do a ton of that in the NFL. Dan's going to be an interesting fit where he lands because he's a brilliant play caller. But I'll be very curious the next chapter or two of his career.
Mike Morgan, ESPN, SEC Network, and everything in between. All right, so the next chapter of the Clemson-Carolina series, the Palmetto Bowl, starts Saturday night at 7:30 under the lights of Williams-Brice Stadium. Mike, as we lump that into this question here, everybody has a different list. How do you determine what the best rivalries in the sport of college football are? Like, what metrics do you use to say, oh, these are the best rivalries out there?
Well, I was talking about this on a show yesterday. My time covering the South Carolina-Clemson rivalry gave me great perspective on just how great it is. And I wouldn't understand it had I not spent a decade of my life in the Palmetto State, because it doesn't resonate nationally.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't hit the radar like Auburn, Alabama, which has always gotten the primo treatment for a number of years for a number of reasons. For a while, you would have said Florida State was up there for a different reason, because every year they were playing under Spurrier and Bowden, they were both in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, Ohio State, again, that's just in a whole other stratosphere. But Carolina Clemson is unique in that there are no pro teams. I realize the Panthers have a contingent, but they're not in the state of South Carolina. Neither is any other pro team. The fact that it's not a huge state makes it so that everybody is focused on that game, 365. I mean, I got a taste of it just calling Carolina Clemson games in Omaha and being told that we were on in every restaurant in the Vista and people all over the place. I mean, they set their watch to that. That's the having such an intimate framework for it, in a not so huge state without pro interest. That's what makes it a brilliant thing. And so I have an appreciation for that that I wouldn't otherwise have, because nationally speaking, it all starts with the Iron Bowl and Michigan, Ohio State, and that's how they're always going to steal the headlines. So, this game, look, it's not on ESPN. It's not on ESPN2. It's not on ABC. It's not on CBS. It's on SEC Network because it's not going to get the same national number that some of those other are. But if you're a fan of one of those two schools, it is everything, and you can't tell me that it's any less important than any other rivalry in college football for those fan bases.
I like how you put that. I see Craig here in the Share Healthcare chat lines. He mentioned Miami and FSU, 80s, 90s. I think that if you like to, which I have Darren and I will do this in hour 2, if you have a ranking of your top rivalries, it should probably constantly be evolving, because some of them are like you just mentioned. I'm with you. This one, the Egg Bowl, no proteins in these states. But then there are rivalries that matter nationally every single year. Back then, Miami and FSU mattered every year. Florida State mattered every year. Auburn, Alabama, for the most part, generally matters every year. Michigan, Ohio State. I still think the best rivalry in the sport, here, I'll dead giveaway to me, is Army-Navy. Just
right,
everything that goes into it.
I think you just hit the 3 that what you said is dead on. And because of that, when we do rank them, I'm going to start rambling on, because I have 3. And then after that, it depends on who you ask, because they're all similar in the sense that the rivalry, what I think about my rival is the same as what you think about your rival, whether I'm Citadel Furman or you're South Carolina Clemson. But Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, Army, Navy. Those are the 3 right now that are constants.
I think those always come up. Mike, how would you like to call an Army-Navy game?
Oh, I'd love it. Heck, I'd just love to be at one. I've never been. I've called Navy, and I've been to Annapolis, which is beautiful, by the way. Beautiful. But no, I'd love to. I'd love to just experience that once in my life.
What do you think about the game Saturday night between Clemson and Carolina? They're seemingly both playing their best football at the right time of the year, Mike.
I think Clemson's favored for a reason. I think they have the most dominant unit in this game, and that is their defense.
Mm-hmm.
That is, both teams have struggled, particularly in the passing game offensively. I would expect both defenses to dare the other quarterback to beat them with his arm, right? So you're not going to, if you're playing Carolina, you're not going to just sit there and go, well, let's play this straight up, and if we get gashed on the ground, we get gashed on the ground. No, I'll go ahead and take my chances with a Division III transfer quarterback, see if he can rifle that ball through a Frigidaire at Williams-Brice on Saturday night, and beat us there, going over the top to Josh Vann or whatever. And same thing with Carolina defensively. DJU has been, quite frankly, a disappointment, and they have had to win games in other ways because they haven't had the quarterback play that they've had in years past under Dabo and this offense. So to me, the defensive game plan is rather predictable on both sides.
Regardless of what happens Saturday night, how would you grade the job that Shane Beamer has done this year getting the Gamecocks into bowl season?
Outstanding. I mean, it's not just the 6 wins. It's the wins over Auburn and Florida in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's the come-from-behind wins in the fourth quarter. It's how well they've played at home. It's the overwhelming positivity in spite of the fact that in some of these games you've been completely outmanned. It's having to win games with, as I said, a Division III transfer, and before that, a grad coach who's somebody said, go throw on the shoulder pads, grab a helmet, kid. You're going to be our starting quarterback. Like this, they're not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to win 6. They're not supposed to blow out Florida and come from behind 14-0 and beat Auburn. This is not supposed to happen in year 1 under Shane. The Vegas line was 3.5 for a reason. They looked at that roster and they said 3.5. So I cannot give enough kudos to what Shane has been able to do in year 1. And for those that question the hire, sometimes it's okay to admit that you might be wrong. That it's okay to just say, you know what, I had my doubts, but now I get it. I get why this makes sense. And on top of that, with all the Virginia Tech rumors and everything else, I sincerely take Shane at his word that he really doesn't want to go anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to stay where he is. He wants to make this home for a long time. He wants to experience some of the success they had that he helped set up in recruiting. Sorry, that's my dog. Baxter, it's okay.
Baxter.
You don't speak Spanish. He wants to do all those things in Columbia. So you don't have a coach who's like flirting with other jobs. I think the way it all ended is very positive and very uplifting in a number of ways.
All right, if you can get a win Saturday night, Mike.
Yeah, look, I know, but I just what disappoints me is there's going to be the same 100 people that can't wait to go to the keyboard the moment if they do lose that game.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be fire this guy. You're going to start ripping the administrator. Like, just come on, folks. Get a grip. All right.
No doubt.
This program, like every other we have now had 10 coaches fired in the SEC in the last 3 years. 10 out of 14.
Jeez.
And we'll probably have another couple next year. So 10 out of 14. So if you're a Carolina fan and sometimes you're feeling a little bit down after a tough loss, you're not alone. Like you're not the only one that has suffered a bit. It's happening across the world of college football. Like no one's immune to it that's not named Alabama or to a lesser extent Georgia. Just be happy for what the positivity that is going on right now after this season. So yeah, it'd be fantastic if you could beat Clemson. That goes without saying. But if you lose it, don't go back on the negative train. I mean, that's crazy talk to me.
Yeah, they've won 2 games in the month of November. Yeah, I mean, Mike, if he can win that thing Saturday night, he's gonna have probably a real case for SEC Coach of the Year. I don't think he'll win it.
I think he's got a case.
I was going to say he's got a case now. Now Heupel is going to be the leading candidate, and they're going to beat Vanderbilt, so they're going to be 7-5.
Right.
So and they beat Carolina. So and based on the absolute disaster that they had to deal with in the offseason, talk about patchworking a roster with all the defections. Josh Heupel's probably going to win that award, but Shane is already a candidate. If they somehow beat Clemson. Now, I mean, that could be enough to just take them over the top to swipe that award away.
Oh, it would be. I don't know that this fan base actually understands what could happen if they beat Clemson. But at the same time, if they lose, they're not going to lose anything. They're in bowl season. It's gravy in his first year, and speaking of gravy, it's Thanksgiving, so it's all good. Yeah,
see
Mike.
What you did there.
Yeah, it's turkey and gravy. Well, listen, on that note, we're going to let you run. We got to hit a timeout and then get Mr. Shurburtt in here, but we truthfully wish you the happiest of Thanksgivings. You and your beautiful new bride, you get to spend time with her family up in Kentucky. It's going to be chilly but wonderful. And I just hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, Mike. Thank you so much. It's a week of thanks. We can't thank you enough for what you do for us. It means so much.
Well,
so thank you, bud.
You're too kind, and I really do. I enjoy this. You guys are great to talk to. It's always a good conversation. That the 30 minutes just like flies by. It's amazing how quick it goes every time we do this. But I've enjoyed it. I love what you guys have built. I'm buying stock not just because I'm on this show, but I believe in you guys. And thanks to Wando Power Equipment. Certainly want to thank them as well. But to all your listeners who say nice things, either through the chats that I catch in the corner of my eye or just in general, really appreciate that. Wish everybody out there a great Thanksgiving and look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Yeah, can't wait. Going to be a lot to discuss next week. And have a great week, Mike. Thank you. Eat up.
You too, guys.
Eat up.
Yeah, take care of that Shurburtt guy. He's a loose cannon, but take good care of him on the next segment.
We'll try. There you go.
All right,
thanks,
see
Mike.
you guys.
See you.
Mike Morgan, ESPN, and the SEC Network. Quick timeout. When we return, JC Sherbert right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC. a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Roberts, owner of 3 Seeds Wellness Studios. And just like being in your favorite ballpark feels like home, our studio feels like home to our clients. We offer over 20 different services to help our guests cultivate, nourish, and grow their bodies and minds. Centrally located in the heart of West Ashley, we offer massages, facials, acupuncture, yoga classes, and everything in between, helping you become that you want to be. A complete list of services are available online, and gift cards are available both online and for curbside pickup. Go to 3seedswellnessstudios.com. Happy holidays.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy.
I got honey bees on my screen door. I got a little buzz in my head. So
Cause we come from a long line of sinners like me. La-di-da, la-di-da,
You were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just put a quarter in the jukebox and sing me back home.
108 Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases. MotleyRice.com, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Share Healthcare chat lines are open, and you can chime in where you may. We did not play the anthem today. We're going to try to grab a couple of extra minutes with JC Sherbert since we extended our time with Mike Morgan. But as always, God bless America. It is Thanksgiving week, so it's always I don't tie those two in however you want to. All right, we're going to tie JC Sherbert into our program here. He's pulling double duty again this week. He'll also be a part of the Big Gamecock Preview Show on Friday for Clemson and South Carolina. But JC, we appreciate you popping on today, man. It's a wonderful week in this great country with so much thanks to be given, so much food to be eaten, and so much football to be watched and played. What's up, brother?
Absolutely. And the Bears apparently have fired Matt Nagy.
All right.
Is that a done deal? I saw that rumor. Is it a done deal?
Well, the Chicago media, they'll figure it out. But it looks like he's gone. The writing's been on the wall. Since I sort of started my Chicago thing, I've watched a lot of Bears football, and it's maddening to watch him call plays, design offense, play quarterbacks. He sucks. I mean, you want to talk about, one of the most physical franchises in all of football, right? Mm-hmm. They can't run the ball because he just does this little zone thing over and over. They're not equipped to doing it. They don't have the running backs. He's ruined quarterbacks. I mean, they drafted Mitch Trubisky #1. I mean, it's been a disaster. And you got something there with Justin Fields, I think. So, hey, I'll give you a name for that job.
Dan Mullen.
No, Matt Campbell.
Brian Kelly.
Oh. All right.
I like it.
So
Brian Kelly.
Then Lincoln Riley goes to Notre Dame?
No.
By the way, I married into a Bears family.
Now, Notre Dame, I would think Luke Fickell, Matt Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing, too. Okay, so if you're Notre Dame, right, Brian Kelly's your winningest coach of all time. I didn't know that, right? Mm-hmm. Wins-wise. Why not go talk to the crazy man down in Jacksonville? He can give you 3 or 4 good years, upgrade your recruiting, maybe cheat a little, and win one. Cheer, cheer, wake up the echoes, man. That's what I would do if I were them, if that job opens and Kelly leaves, because Kelly's going to leave it in really good shape. The Urbanator can come in. He can hold his chest and throat after they lose. He can, probably not lose as much as he's losing now with the Jaguars. And he'll be gone in 5 years. But, it's got to be intriguing to him because that was one point his dream job to maybe come back and be the first since Lou to win a national championship there. I just don't think Brian Kelly, and if you're Brian Kelly, I think I'm taking the Bears or the Giants, and that's what I heard last night. He's going to Bears or Giants. Herbie keeps mentioning Southern Cal. I think you've topped out at Notre Dame. I think 2 playoffs in 4 years, you're much better consistently year to year than any other Notre Dame coach they've had since Lou. But you just can't get over the top, and that program needs somebody to get them over the top. And you got to have somebody that's a little bit, that lives in the gray area these days to get over the top. And nobody fits that bill but Urban Meyer. But, Brian Kelly, you think about his story, guys. He was at Grand Valley State for 10 years. And then he goes to Central Michigan. And then he goes to Cincinnati. And now he's at Notre Dame. I mean, this guy's paid his dues. I think if you're him, why not? And if it's the Bears, you can stay in the general vicinity that you've lived and had your career. Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, this part of the country. Why not? Why not try it at the highest level? And so
interesting.
I'm not saying, I'm not predicting that'll happen, but that is I believe that rumor. Let's put it that way.
And with the transfer portal, I mean, he could take Trevor Lawrence with him. Right? No? Wrong? Whatever. By the way, I want to give a shout out to JC Sherbert, and excellent, the best read you will have all day long on the bigspur.com. It is titled simply Shane Beamer in Year One, but it is a history lesson for all of the newbies to Gamecock football who maybe hopped on board back when Spurrier was doing his thing at South Carolina and really don't know a whole lot about the program outside of that. JC, it's really, I'm not saying this because you're sitting here, it's incredibly well written. It's a great 10-minute read, and it ties Shane Beamer and what he's done in Year One to the previous coaches and what they've done in Year One and so on and so forth. I'm gonna leave it there, though. I want people to go read it.
Sure. Yeah, it's a long article. I was hoping you would read it. I finished it up this morning, but I'll just point out this one stat, and it's a little bit unfair from the standpoint of there was an all-SEC schedule last year, so that 2-8 was not like 2-10 against another schedule. I mean, you don't know. Carolina could have lost to Coastal and East Carolina last season and finished worse. But, Beamer, this is the largest win improvement in the modern era at South Carolina. Paul Dietzel, he went from 5-5 to 1-9 -4. Jim Carlin went from 4-7 to 7-5 +3. Richard Bell 6-6 to 4-7 -2. Joe Morrison 4-7 to 5-6 +1. Sparky Woods 8-4 to 6-4-1 -2. Brad Scott +3 from 4-7 to 7-5. Lou Holtz -1, 1-10 to 0-11. Steve Spurrier +1, 6-5 to 7-5. Will Muschamp +3, 3-9 to 6-7, and then Shane Beamer from 2-8 to 6-5 already has that mark. Now, if you're a Gamecock, you're probably concerned. You do. If you're older, you remember the Carlin era with some joy. That was kind of when they arrived with George Rogers and all that. But obviously, Brad Scott and Will Muschamp did not work out. So I don't know if this is a telltale sign or if I don't know what this means. But I thought that was interesting information for sure.
To clarify so people understand now, this is a change in coaches from year one or from the final year to year one of the next regime.
In his first year improvement or regression.
Yeah.
And really, there's really been very few coaches that have regressed when they've taken over Carolina. Paul Dietzel back in 1966 was definitely one. Richard Bell was kind of an interim. That was one. You knew with Sparky, once Todd Ellis got hurt, it was going to be hard to match the 8-4 record. Holtz -1, and the rest improved. I mean, so as much as we talk about the history around here, it's unprecedented in terms of more wins improved wise right now with 2 to go than the other coaches. But it's not crazy that a first-year head coach comes in and puts it together at South Carolina.
The first-year head coach is speaking with the media. We'll keep our eyes on it. Anything of note, I'm most interested to hear what they've got to say about the health of Cam Smith for the weekend, so we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. Also, a quick note, I mentioned it at the top of the show, but for those that don't trust me, Steve Fink has now officially mentioned this. There are about 200 tickets left for the game this weekend, and it will be a sellout. JC, this goes; those will sell over the next couple of days. So if you want to get a ticket, you better get it now. Expecting a sellout at Williams-Brice Stadium for the Palmetto Bowl this weekend, which, JC, obviously we're going to really go in depth in this game coming up on Friday as part of the big Gamecock preview show. But let's talk about it from a rivalry standpoint. Darren and I did a little exercise. Yeah, there you go. Great line. Great minds. Ranking our top 5 rivalries in the sport today. I'm gonna give you my top 5, and I'm gonna give you a reason. And some of you are gonna go, "Whoa, you're wrong." Well, it's not like the sky's blue. The sky is blue. This is my opinion. It's not necessarily a fact.
There's no wrong answers here.
It's not a wrong. I have Army Navy at number 1. I have I have Bama Auburn at 2. I have Michigan Ohio State at 3, and then I have Clemson South Carolina at 4 and Ole Miss Mississippi State at 5. And the reason for that is, Darren, we talked about this earlier, is because in a small state with no pro sports and generally many, many years, not in recent history for Clemson because they've been so good, but many years where neither one of them were really playing for much except pride. This is literally all that mattered the whole year was this game. And just like Mike Morgan hit the nail on the head earlier, and that's exactly why I put him up there in my personal top 5. It's because in this state, like when you see it from this state, it's just like if you see Ole Miss, Mississippi State, or if you see, Washington State from the Apple Cup from that state inside of it, but they have pro sports. It is so different, those intra-conference matchups, when you have nothing else to hang your hat on the rest of the year. So that's my top 5, but it's not everybody's top 15. It's probably a top 20 rivalry always, but it's not everybody's top 5, top 15, or top 10. Darren, I'm interested to hear your top 5, but I will say, as it pertains to this rivalry, this is a nasty/tasty rivalry. There's always something to talk about. There's always something that's manufactured, and I don't see it being any different on Saturday night.
Well, my number. Go ahead, Darren.
I was going to say I'll go quickly and leave the floor to JC. I said it last hour. For me, there's 3 that are up there. and are always going to be up there. And it's Ohio State, Michigan. I'd put that ahead of Army, Navy. And then right behind that is Alabama, Auburn. After those three that are virtually relevant every single year on a national scale, I think the rest of the rivalries are super similar because it's not like the hate and distaste is much different, whether you're in a huge state or a small state. So, Texas, Oklahoma, I think that's another great example. Huge state, ton of other options. I love that rivalry, and it mattered a lot when it was played this year too. It typically does, and it typically garners a lot of headlines. The others, take your pick. I'm interested this year. I'd put Carolina Clemson this year at 5 for you, just because, look, is Beamer going to do this? Is he going to be the one who not only goes into this game having already exceeded expectations and then top it off with this, and in doing so, throw another nail at the arch rival who's been nationally relevant? There's some spice to this. I'm surprised it's only on the SEC network.
Yeah, and they're both playing their best football at the right time of year. By the way, a quick caveat to mine. By the way, I like rivalry games at the end of the season. I love all the rivalries that are played throughout the year, but I love this Thanksgiving weekend. So with all that being said, JC, as you look at this game as a rivalry game, they're playing, both teams playing their best football right now, which is great. How do you see it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Clemson, Carolina, this year, I think the pressure's kind of off both teams because of what's happened recently. If you're Clemson and you lose that Wake game, and let's say you're trying to get bowl eligible right now. You lost Louisville, Florida State, and Wake, or Syracuse, or something like that. You got to go win in Columbia, and that's not easy. If you're the Gamecocks and you lost last week, you got to beat your rival that's been far superior to you for a while, and it still is a 14-point favorite to get to a bowl, and that's a lot of pressure. Right? The pressure's off. I think both teams just need to shoot to play their best game. I think there's some advantages Clemson has. I think there's some advantages South Carolina has, and we'll see what happens. I think when you look at Clemson's results scoring-wise against defenses that rank higher than Carolina's, I think they put 17 offensively against Syracuse. They put how much against Boston? 19 against Boston College, and 3 against Georgia. So, they haven't gone up and down the field against good defenses. But I do think there's something to be said about the way they've put it together and rallied, because this was a Clemson team that could not, move the ball that well earlier this year. They do have issues with turnovers. They have issues in the passing game. The receiving corps is very beat up. But they found something that works, and all the crap about Tony Elliott, they need to fire him or whatever. We miss Jeff Scott or whatever. I think it's been misguided. I think Tony's done a good job of putting it together. And then we all know what Venables is going to do. He's going to bring the heat. And Clemson's defensive personnel is as good as Texas A&M's, probably approaching Georgia's. If you really kind of dig into who's playing and things like that. Now, they've been injured too, but you know what's going to happen there. So it's not a great matchup for South Carolina, but I do think there's some things they can get done on defense. Would you guys like my top 5 rivalries?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm off the beaten path here. Okay, number 1 is the Iron Bowl to me. And this is only because of this. I have some firsthand accounts of these types of games. So my friend that's an Auburn fan, he's like, well, I was walking into the game. He's like, there's nothing like it. He was like, this was like 20 years ago. And he's like, you just see this guy up there in Alabama gear, and he's just cussing at everybody that's Auburn walking in, this. And I was like, well, was he drunk? No, he's a preacher in my hometown. And this game was at Auburn at Jordan-Hare.
Right.
Those two hate each other. I mean, it to me, it's very intense every single season. I've lived it through ranking an Auburn recruit higher, and Alabama fans call me a Barner. Reverse is true with Auburn fans. You're a Bammer, blah, blah, blah. I mean, literally, for like 5 years, everybody's convinced I was either an Alabama or Auburn fan when I was in national recruiting. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the Egg Bowl. There is nothing like the Egg Bowl. And it's probably because the Mississippis haven't always, that's their game of the year. But where else do you like lose? You win a game because a kid hikes his leg to pee like a dog.
Yeah.
The other coach gets fired, and then you get fired a month later. And then you end up with Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be a website, and nobody tried to go to this. I don't know if it's still active or not, called eggbowl.com on rivals.com when I worked there 15 years ago. And I got a call from the SID at Mississippi State. And they're like, can you just take this down? I was like, yeah, we don't even know that it's here. And you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that's said between those two fan bases. It's not only not safe for work, it could get somebody canceled quick, what they say. Number 3, and you guys hear me out, Oregon, Washington. You would not know it. I have friends that are big Ducks fans and Husky fans, and like talking to them, I'm like, well, yeah, Apple Cup, or they call it the Civil War with Oregon State.
Yeah.
And they're all like the Oregon guy, talking like an Oregon accent. He's like, nah. He's like, man, I don't like Oregon State too much, but I hate freaking UW. I hate UW. And there is a visceral hatred. And if you notice, Washington used to rub it in their face, and then the Ducks became a national power, and Washington slipped, and they rub it in their face. So it's just like a string of blowouts, right, between Washington and Oregon. And they're like, so they hate each other. Number 4 is Texas and Texas A&M. Enough said. Why don't they play? I don't know.
Okay.
Did I mention the movie The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas?
You did, yeah.
You did now.
I did that last week, I thought. Or maybe I did it on JC and Morgan. I can't remember. But, that's part of Americana. And then they don't play. They're so pissed off at each other, they don't even play. Yeah, we're not going to play you. Texas is playing Kansas State this weekend, by the way, and they're going to get run like they normally do against K-State, and they deserve it. So anyway, that's number 4. And then number 5 is a tie. And actually, you could put this Clemson and Carolina at 4 and this one at 5 because Texas and Texas A&M don't play. Virginia and Virginia Tech. And I'll tell you why. It's like it was described to me like this from a Hokie alum. Let's just put it that way. It's a bunch of normal people versus a bunch of snobs and rich folks. And so I was like, man, I can get into that, and they go back and forth. The Commonwealth Cup is a serious rivalry. So that would be mine. And look, I left out Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Oklahoma, all these the only border state rival, that I put in there was Oregon and Washington, just because I was so shocked that those two hate each other so bad. But, I can't.
Let me ask you this, though. Do they hate each other more than Michigan, Ohio State? That's hard to believe.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's because Ohio State and Michigan are both so successful and they win so much. And that everybody in Ann Arbor wants to win that game this weekend. No, and I agree. It's the game. It's important. Very often there's a lot at stake, like there is this year. And I love Army, Navy. I love those. But these in-state rivalries and then the visceral hatred with Oregon and Washington that I'm aware of, and Virginia Tech, that's mine. But that, like I said, there's not a bad choice. And my number 1 would have been Pitt and Penn State, but I didn't want to upset Darren.
Penn State doesn't have a rival. I'll say this about Virginia.
Oh, sorry, it's Maryland.
Yeah.
The border battle.
At least it's not a rivalry yet with Maryland. The Virginia Tech thing, because I grew up 20 minutes from College Park, so not too far from the two Virginias. Spent time in both Blacksburg and Charlottesville, and then ended up becoming friends with a dude who was working over in Charlottesville for a long time. They hate each other. I mean, there's a passion of hate between the two Virginias.
Yeah, and it's two way different cultures. Yeah. So I'm getting some bad feedback here about my list, but look, I'm sorry to Mark here. I'm sorry, Mark. They canceled Pitt and Penn State, so I didn't have my true number 1. But Army Navy is a special game to me. I mean, I love watching it, the pageantry. I think those guys just play their butts off in the game. I watch it every single year.
Yeah,
except one year I was in New York and. Anyway, that was the 1 year I missed it. But
I would. This is going to sound crazy, Mark. This might sound crazy as well. Again, these are our opinions; these aren't facts. But I would, if you said you could pick any football game in any year to go to, I mean, pro, college, that includes the Super Bowl. I'd pick Army Navy over all of them. If you could only choose one to go to, I would rather go see Army Navy play than go to a Super Bowl. I really would. I feel like the Super Bowl is just one big commercial now. It's a big setup. It's a big to-do. That's neat, and I'd love to go to a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But I have so much pride in myself as an American and for what these kids go through and what they're training to do for the rest of their lives, and then what they train to do on Saturdays, especially the years that they're really good. And the game, generally, guys, even if one team is really bad, generally it's a really good game. And I'd like to go when it's snowing, cold, and I'd love to be a part of it. A few years ago, what was it, the last one that Vern Lundquist called? Or no, he's still calling it, isn't he? Is he still calling? No, Nessler's calling it now. So the last one that Vern Lundquist called when it was pouring snow, that was so neat.
I'll happily do that in a suite. Happily.
Nah, man, give me the fans.
Out there in that.
I like being out there with all the fans, and I think it'd be neat. JC, and I tell you what, as long as JC doesn't mind here, we're going to put him on the spot. So if he says no, then it's your problem to deal with, not ours. But if Keith jumps in, we can plug him into our program as well, and he can be. We did this yesterday with Wes Mitchell and Patrick Davis, and we somehow got started talking about big old cock on our boxer shorts. So we'll hope Keith doesn't leave that into our conversation here.
Come on in. Bring the cockfather into the JB Goldwater, JC Sherbert.
See, here we go again, Darren. The cockfather, the big old cock.
There he is.
The boxer shorts.
Hey, bring it in for the real thing, brother.
Bring it in for the real thing.
Can we just start? Let's just start calling Keith. Keith, you're gonna from here on out. You're gonna be the big old cockfather.
Oh God.
Hey, don't make his
my
ego.
My mother-in-law has a big issue with that.
We'll get you what Patrick said he was going to make yesterday. He's going to come out with some new boxers, and we'll just specially get yours made. Big old cockfather.
I do have a big old gamecock on my shirt today.
Yeah,
he's kind of an angry looking. He's kind of an angry looking cock.
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's
that's the cockpit shirt, right?
Cockpit shirt. Yeah.
All right, there you go.
It's menacing.
There sure is a lot of cock on this show today.
I got my Prince purple rain shirt on. Does that count?
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with JB. Number one on my rivalry list and number one on my bucket list is Army Navy, without a doubt, because of everything you said. My dad was in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Army in World War II in France. And I think it'd be really cool to be in that stadium when it's snowing and 28 degrees, because we'd all be liquored up and loving the game.
No doubt. Yeah, I'd have my Buffalo Trace.
That's the thing. It just looks so cold in Annapolis when they play it.
Yeah.
Stadium. And I've seen that stadium got a lot of blue seats, and the wind blowing off the Chesapeake Bay makes me cold.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's how you live on Lake Michigan. It's colder than a well digger's ass in Chicago 9 months out of the year. Come on.
I didn't say I liked it. You don't see me going. You don't see me going to Bears games in December, do you? No, I'm at the bar. They got a buffet at halftime. They serve free sausage and chicken. Sausage.
Yeah.
So let me ask y'all this while we're in this rivalry conversation. This is almost a little uncomfortable, and you wonder if it'll change and if it does, when. But Dabo Swinney and Shane Beamer have been really complimentary of each other this week in their press conferences. I saw Josh Pate just a little bit ago tweet out, I don't like this coziness. He also talked about it from the Egg Bowl standpoint, because I think Lane called Leach the best offensive mind in football the other day, and they have a lot of respect for each other. But these are rivalries. The fans don't like each other, at least on game day. I don't like my neighbor. I know that. He's a Clemson fan. I don't like it. That has nothing to do with him being a Clemson fan. I just don't like him. I
don't like my neighbors either.
But is this rival? I'll start with you, Keith, since we just got you in here and we've been blabbing for 20 minutes with JC. Is it a little awkward for you with these coaches, the amount of respect they're tossing at each other a few days before the ball game?
Well, I mean, look, there's public-facing comments and there's private-facing comments. I do think, Shane has emulated a lot of what Dabo did early at Clemson. I do think there is respect for one another, but, if Shane started beating Dabo, it'd probably change in a hurry. And if Dabo gets a chance to rub it in on Saturday night at Williams-Brice Stadium, it might change. I mean, this is before the first meeting, right? Like, you can be all friends and hunky-dory and all of that, and then you get in the game, and there could be things during the game that happen that could, kind of tilt that in a different direction.
And I'll say this, Lou Holtz, when he was at South Carolina, he did not like losing to Clemson. He put a big emphasis on it. When Spur lost his butt, basically.
Every year but one.
Some years that he shouldn't have. When Spurrier got here, Spurrier's probably not like the biggest Tommy Bowden fan out there, but Tommy was winning that game and Spurrier was winning it, and you didn't hear Spurrier make little jabs. And then Dabo goes off that time about, USC's in California and the university, that thing.
Yeah. I think that's
Did
when
that help him?
No, and JC, I'm glad you brought that up because I say this a lot of time. My cousin and I talk a lot of Carolina football every day, actually, and I maintain this stance. That moment that happened in 2013, and for people that are new to this state that weren't around, didn't go to South Carolina, doesn't affect them. But he didn't offend a football rivalry when he went on that 5-minute rant that day that was basically pre-scheduled. He offended people who had spent thousands of dollars. Like, he offended them personally, their state institution where their family had gone to school, prideful people. And we've worked our rear ends off to pay for our student loans for 20, 30 years and the careers we have because we went to school there. And this guy basically degraded us in a couple of minutes on some, preempted rant and after losing a football game. And that's when it started. That's when the real hate towards Dabo Swinney started in this fan base. People have never gotten that out of their system.
Well, and those were tired old Carolina things too. I mean, Rural Carolina's in Chapel Hill. It was just a little adolescent, and that was in 2011. And what was funny was, they went on to win the ACC that year after Carolina beat them by 21. Then Carolina comes to Death Valley the next year with a backup quarterback, beats them again. They come down to Columbia in 2013. They turn the ball over 5 times. They beat them again, and then it's like, Spurrier's like, well, that goes about like it always does. And then Spurrier started the needling, right?
Yeah.
Dabo probably thinks there's 9 planets out there, that kind of thing. Come to find out, they're still friends. So Dabo and Spurrier get along. So that's the thing.
I thought it was kind of the Todd Ellis comment that set Dabo really off. I mean, clearly the losing had a lot to do with it. And I think what's happened is America now has gotten a taste of what the real Dabo Swinney is like Carolina fans got after that. And I think, the college football writers and the national media, they're tired of the stick of little old Clemson and poor little old Dabo and all of that because and this Shane is not like an ass clown like Dabo. Like, bring your own guts and all of that stuff.
Bring your own guts.
Shane's just been very positive, but I mean, the Dabo-ism stuff is played itself out, and he's winning big. Now he's not. Everybody thought, well, he's a distraction from Nick Saban. We love it. And then, you get all the comments about, well, if they ever start paying players, I'm getting out of this thing because that just ain't right. Well, look, let's face it. Who pays players more than Clemson? I mean, come on.
Well, when you got a contract that says you got $90 million on it, you're probably going to stick around for a little while as well.
Yeah, Mel Tucker's got that, right?
I guess so.
Not yet.
Mel Tucker, $95 million.
He's getting
Not yet.
Will he be the highest paid coach in the country when that happens?
Third.
It'll be number 2 behind Saban.
Oh, I thought it was 3 behind Dabo and Saban.
Maybe. Okay. Not worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it. I'm gonna do a Saban. Saban says things in threes and then goes, all right. I'm gonna go, not worth it, not worth it, not worth it. All right. Just not worth it. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too. I think Shane Beamer is much more like, and I have to be careful saying this because he's not well loved in the Gamecock community, but I think he's a little bit more like Tom Herman, I guess, when Tom was at Houston, maybe not at Texas. Maybe not the kissing of the players and things like that, but to me, he's a little more like Tom Herman than Dabo. And I think Dabo's just like his own guy. There's not anybody that's like Dabo out there. And hopefully there's not anybody that's like Shane Beamer as we move forward, but that would kind of be my early comparison, as far as how they act as coaches and stuff like that. Personally, I think Shane Beamer and Tom Herman are very different people, but I think as far as their approach and what they emphasize, I think he's a little more like that than maybe Dabo is. I think a lot of Gamecocks are hoping he has the success Dabo does, and that he can hire good coordinators. I think he's 1 for 2 right now, so hopefully he can get that squared away. But I that would be my comparison, I guess, as far as like his coach persona goes. And like I said, personally, those two guys they're way far apart. But as far as like his approach, I think that's a little more like that than Dabo.
So you mentioned that, and I want to make sure we get Keith in here. We know how the season from week to week, there's been a different conversation of negativity all year, with the exception of probably after the first game. It was like, okay, it was a 46-0 win. I mean, it was, hey, that's a nice win. Let's see how things go. And then not a lot to complain about after the Florida game. They just dominated them. But every other week, it's, play calling and this and that and the other. But guys, at the end of the day, they've navigated through all that and into bowl season. And Keith, I want to start with you here. I mean, we could cut it up however we want to about what other games they could have won. They certainly could have won a couple more games, as we all well know. Also could have lost some games, as we all well know. But they're bowling at 6-5 with their rivals coming to town. I mean, when you really think about it in the grand scheme of everything that's gone wrong this year, at the end of the day, it's kind of righted the ship because they're in the postseason, and for the most part, nobody thought they'd be there.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with Mike Morgan. I think Josh Heupel, has certainly done a great job at Tennessee. I mean, they've been in more games. I mean, Carolina very easily could have lost to East Carolina and even lost to Troy and Vanderbilt. They didn't. Sure, they could have beaten Kentucky and they could have beaten Missouri, but I think it's remarkable that you're 6-5 when you've gone through to 3 quarterbacks basically because of injuries. Yeah. I don't know who else has lost.
You're right.
Their starting quarterback twice, and then their backup quarterback, and had to go to their third quarterback.
I agree.
I am with, I think what Clayton White and the defense did Saturday night with Auburn, they bent but didn't break at times. I thought South Carolina needed Auburn to help them out a little bit, and they did with that bizarre Mountain West 4th and 1 play call. That was not an SEC play call. And I think Brian Harsin probably called it because I just don't think that's in Mike Bobo's DNA to take the best player on the field, off the field on 4th and 1 with a backup quarterback and say, hey, let's fake an end around and throw it deep on 4th and 1. And with a backup quarterback, and if we don't get it, they'll get it at the 35 and they'll have a chance to go in and tie it at halftime. That's what happened. I think Clayton White's been remarkable. What that defensive staff has done for the most part. They couldn't get a stop against Missouri. That was disappointing, but there's been a lot of good stuff, and getting to 6-5. I still think the biggest known Now we know more about Clayton White, but it's still the biggest known to me is the culture that Shane Beamer is installed at South Carolina, and it has withstood adversity. It has withstood injuries.
Love that.
And I think it's going, all this upheaval in college football is going to help South Carolina get players in recruiting. Now, it may hurt him when it comes to getting his next offensive coordinator or whoever else he wants to fill out on his staff. But I think it's year one is a success for Shane Beamer, and they've had to overcome a lot of adversity, and sure it helped having a backup quarterback and Florida bottoming out. But guys, and tell me if I'm wrong, but before the season, if you'd have told me South Carolina will not beat Kentucky, they will not beat Tennessee, and they will not beat Missouri, but they'll have 6 wins going into Clemson,
I never believe
it. I thought you've been drinking too much moonshine.
Mm-hmm. Or smoking the Clorox stuff that people turn into meth. Yeah, I totally agree.
Ivermectin, yes.
Yeah,
that's why I've been so hard and heavy on the train of, he's done a hell of a job. It's not just the expectations coming in, it's then the adversity that he's dealt with throughout the year as well. And then throw that last fact that Keith just said on top. Yeah, he's in the running for SEC Coach of the Year, and it is one of the better coaching stories, certainly in the region, if not nationally, this year.
JC, what do you think Shane has learned this year in his first year as a head coach? What do you think he's learned about himself?
Well, I just learned that Shane Beamer thinks Thanksgiving is a holiday. So,
all right,
Gamecock fans will like that one. Right?
Not a meal; it's a holiday.
It's not a meal.
This guy's getting better by the minute.
Look,
I
think Shane this year has probably learned the positive end of things that, it's probably very difficult, as prideful and as enthusiastic as he is and all that stuff, to sort of look and see kind of how the team's performing and some of the reaction and all that. And he stayed steady, and that comes from his dad. That comes from it's a Frank Beamer trademark. Never get too high, never get too low, stay consistent. And I think that's part of what made his dad successful. Now, I think everybody knows that his career path at South Carolina or wherever, South Carolina, cannot go like his dad's, where 6 years he's winning 2 games and, that gets you fired these days. I think he knows that. But within the scope of this season, I think he's learned that consistency and positivity and all that, that kind of keeps your team afloat, right? Bad losses, negativity. These are college kids. They're out there reading everything these days anyway. And the guys never stopped. They never stopped trying. They never stopped believing. Man, how many Gamecock teams going down to Auburn first quarter the other night, 14-0, would have just folded or pressed or panicked? There was none of that, and I think there's something to be said for that. And I think he also knows that, I don't know if I want to say this or not, but maybe you can't run an NFL offense at South Carolina. So that's maybe another thing he's learned. But we'll see what happens with that. I don't want to get into that right now. But that would be, as a head coach, I think, you were doing so much to kind of lead the team, beyond maybe what a defensive guru or offensive guru does, and establish that culture. And a source told me, I'll wrap up with this, when things were not good, the one thing about Beamer is he protects that culture and he protects what he's trying to install. He said that in his opening press conference, right? I want to install the premier culture in college football. Kids, that resonates these days with recruits, current players, because if it doesn't, they're going to leave and go in the portal and go someplace else. So I think the fact that the culture works and his consistency is a big part of that is probably the big thing. And, man, look, you're consistent sometimes and same guy all the time and you keep grinding and stuff like that. Sometimes good things happen. And that's what's happened to this team 2 out of the last 3 games.
Keith?
Yeah, I agree. I also think, I still think you have to give Will Muschamp some credit. I mean, for all the talk of the selfishness and all of that, I mean, it's kind of worked itself out, and some of those guys went to the draft. But just like Steve Spurrier left a lot of really good kids in that program, Will Muschamp recruited a lot of really good kids and some very talented players to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they needed a change, and they needed the positivity and to be built up. And I think Shane fostered that. But, I mean, let's face it, about 98% of the guys that are playing were left down there by the former guy. So,
yeah. And I've said that. Everybody thought, you know, I mean, there was a school of thought just on the bigspur.com and interacting with fans that Muschamp left this big mess and a dumpster fire, and, you know, they don't have any players and they don't have any talent. This is going to be a 5-year rebuild. And I've talk about consistency. I've consistently rejected that just because I know. You know, I know that these guys, a lot of these guys can play, and, you know, whatever the disconnect was under Muschamp, that has nothing to do with could he recruit or not and could he evaluate talent or not. And I think we all know when you look at the success Beamer's had this year, and even with having like bad offense, you look at what the Swamp Donkey did at Florida with that, and that team was much more loaded than Carolina that he took over at Florida. You know, I don't have any problem with the guys he recruited. Another thing about it is, man, like, look, okay, so yeah, there were some guys that like wanted to go to the NFL quick, and, you know, that's kind of their buy-in, like Izzy McWamu, who's amazingly better at that level, you know, that kind of thing. Don't really want to point anybody out, but and yeah, okay, so there was that issue, but that's a heck of a lot better, man. And I'll take you back in time than a coach coming in and taking over and somebody jacks a bunch of laptop computers out the building. Okay. Yeah. Let's just be straight here. Okay. So I think Steve Spurrier and Will Muschamp both left tremendous people. And I think Muschamp actually left more talent. You know, you look at this 2020 class, all of them redshirted last year. They all can come back. They'll have multiple years left. Right. And so I just, you know, in my opinion, you know, I think the culture and the focus on team and winning maybe got a little skewed under Muschamp, but I don't think there was a bunch of bad citizens. You know, you got good kids, good students, academically they're good, that kind of thing. So
let me ask you this. One word: better, worse, or TBD. Have they, I'll start with you, JC. Has Carolina gotten better as the season has gone on, worse, or TBD?
Start with me?
Yep.
I think better. You know, I don't see them lining up and beating Auburn like that after the Tennessee game. You know, I just with the issues on both sides. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the simplification on the offensive line and the 2 wins recently, that's been huge because, you know, those guys aren't, you know, scared. They're not like powder puff guys, you know, no. Jovan Gwynn, powder puff. No. And they're just going out and playing and running the ball. And Jason Brown's made a big difference too with his ability to kind of manage the game and then make off schedule plays. So I think South Carolina's better right now than at any point this season.
What do you think, Keith?
I think they're better. And I think you can point to guys that have gotten better just under this staff, like Trey Kenyon and Darius Rush and
agreed. Brad Johnson.
Yeah. I mean,
Josh Vann.
All of them. Zaquandre White.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's the other thing about Beamer's staff when you talk about Muschamp, talent, players. These guys have gotten some of these guys a lot. But I mean, who would have thought Jalen Foster would have had the year he'd had? Not me. I wouldn't have thought Darius Rush would even be on the field. Brad Johnson at middle linebacker. No, I don't know. You know, Damani Staley playing like he is. Josh Vann was somebody where, I mean, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly they're better, right? For everything that was just listed, undoubtedly they're better. If they weren't, there wouldn't be a level of confidence of this being a good game or maybe a Gamecock win Saturday. They've gotten significantly better.
I agree. Both teams are playing their best football at the right time of the year. We have 5 minutes left. Darren does have to be done today. When we're done at 2, he has to pack so he can get going to Florida.
For me, kid, equipment.
But I do want to throw this out there, guys. I think one of the things that I'm most impressed with, and then that I personally am most proud of, Carolina's 5-1 at home. Don't care what it looks like. They're 5-1 at home. It's going to be sold out on Saturday night. Somebody asked me yesterday, do you think, I was doing an interview with somebody, they said, do you think what type of home field advantage do you think South Carolina will have on Saturday night? And I said, well, look, it's been light crowds for a few games this year. Pretty disappointing. As a matter of fact, as a Gamecock fan, embarrassing. I'll call out everybody that decided to stay home. Embarrassing. I think it's been embarrassing. That being said, you know who it's been in home field advantage to? The players, because they think it's a home field advantage. And I think a lot of that starts with Shane Beamer. Listen to how he speaks every single week about Williams-Brice Stadium. And I'll leave it there for you two to comment finally on that as we walk into the Palmetto Bowl this weekend, back under the lights at Williams-Brice, and the home field advantage that I feel like Shane Beamer, regardless of crowd size this year, has kind of reinvented in this program. Keith, I'll go with you.
I mean, I think, it's big. I think South Carolina has had their two biggest wins of the year at home at night in Williams-Brice Stadium, and it's been loud. I think a sellout crowd gives the team, I think they will be more confident than they have been in the last two games because at home at night, because they won both of those games. I think there's a lot of elements that are present, for South Carolina to potentially pull an upset. I think you got to hope it's kind of like Auburn, the low scoring, because I don't think you're going to score 38 on Clemson's defense unless DJ throws you 3 pick sixes.
And even then, I don't know.
But I got to get this in because, it's still a long way to go to make it as big of a home court advantage as Dawn Staley has at Colonial Life Arena, because the fans pack it out and don't think these two big games coming up after they dismantled UConn yesterday, Stanford and Maryland are in for it when they come to Columbia.
That's a good point. December is what you're saying could be a good month for Carolina? Is that what you're saying? Could be a good month?
Could be.
JC, yeah, Keith, I haven't had it. I'll just call you later to talk about what we saw yesterday, because that was some kind of something. JC, final quick word from you and just Williams-Brice Stadium. Look, Williams-Brice Stadium means something to Shane Beamer. That's been clear for a long time. He's made that crystal clear from day one, being hired as the head coach of the Gamecocks, and he has shoved that into these players' faces, and they've embraced it again. I don't know that it was there the last 4 or 5 years, but these guys, they walk in there and they truly do feel home, and they feel proud to protect it, especially at night, like this weekend with Clemson coming in.
They play loose. I mean, even as messy as Troy got and Vandy got, they play loose. And even that Kentucky game, 3 turnovers forced, that kind of thing, it was there for the taking. But, look, Williams-Brice Stadium means a lot to everybody, as it should. And, I think sometimes when the team's not winning as much, and you've had a lot of crap Gamecock fans have been through in all sports recently, right? And then there's COVID, and the concessions are a mess, and that's really nobody's fault because we're workers short or whatever. You name the reason not to go. There's reasons not to go. But one thing Gamecock fans will show up for is the South Carolina Clemson game, right? And this is South Carolina's best chance to win this game since 2014. And that was a game Clemson obviously won, broke the streak, but Carolina could have won that one had Steve Spurrier called plays. But oh well. So I get it, and I think that having a full house at that stadium, and there'll be a lot of orange there too, but there's always a lot of garnet and black up there too.
Yeah.
I think it's going to give everybody a sense of all is right, and if they win the game, bonus, right? But that atmosphere pregame, 7:30, South Carolina Clemson at Williams-Brice, sellout crowd, it's going to be second to none. And I think that's, like I said, win or lose, you can sit there and look at it and go, hey, things are back to being normal. Win or lose, then we'll have news the next week. Bowl coming up, all that good stuff, and away you go with recruiting and everything. And like he said, it's going to be a crazy offseason. So, I just think that moment when 2001 hits and towels are going and it's full again, you don't see a bunch of people dressed up like empty seats. I think that'll give everybody a cathartic moment after all just the absolute crap Gamecock fans have been through the past half decade.
Well, as someone mentioned to me not too long ago, it's amazing what hope does for your program. Right now, there's a lot of hope in this one for South Carolina. Both Clemson and the Gamecocks are playing their best football. I think it'll be a really good game. On that note, Darren and I are off tomorrow. Obviously, we're off Thursday for Thanksgiving, and then 10 a.m. on Friday, the big Gamecock preview show at 11 is when we'll be back. 10 a.m. for JB Goldwater, 11 for the Carolina segment of that program. With that being said, guys, Thanksgiving's coming up in a couple of days. Darren and I are honored to work with the both of you here. Y'all aren't just guests on our show. You know that. You're family. We love you. We really appreciate everything you do. And Keith, being over there in Texas, I know you'll be watching it and cheering loud from afar this weekend. I'm sure I'll talk to you before the ball game. But I truly wish you and your wife and your daughter, your entire family, the happiest of Thanksgivings. Y'all deserve it, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And JC, the same for you and Nat and your family up there in Chicago, man. We really appreciate y'all, and we do love y'all around here. It's great to have you all the time.
All right. Love you guys, too. Happy Thanksgiving. We know it's a holiday again. That alone maybe makes people feel right.
Hey, but the day after is not a holiday, and my crew actually got selected. It's a huge honor. We're calling a state semifinal football game down in San Antonio on Friday night. So I'll miss all the day after Thanksgiving football games, just laying around and eating leftover. You cut up the turkey and you just slap some Duke's mayonnaise and some mustard on it. And
thank you.
Have turkey sandwiches.
Mike Morgan, if you're listening, you are wrong. Your mayonnaise take is awful.
No.
Duke's mayonnaise is great.
Is he a Hellman's guy or a
non? He doesn't even like mayonnaise.
I'm a non-mayo guy, too.
He's a non-mayo
A lot of people are.
guy.
A lot of people are. Not me, unfortunately.
I love mayonnaise.
Probably need to cut out the mayonnaise.
Not me.
Mike Morgan didn't grow up in Pickens County.
No, he did not. Keith and JC. Keith, I'm sorry we made you share your time with JC today. I guess there's worse people to do it.
Hey, it's good. That's getting the band back together again. Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun as always.
Yeah.
Guys, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much to both of you. It's Rivalry. It's going to be a great next few days. Have a wonderful week.
All right, guys.
Thank you. There you go. Keith
Thanksgiving
Allsep.
to you guys as well.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks.
Keith Allsep, the host of the best Gamecocks podcast out there, the Locked On The Gamecocks podcast. JC Sherbert, owner of thebigspur.com, host of JC and Morgan, host of Inside the Gamecocks, part host of JB and Goldwater. He's on enough with us. Darren's the last time I'll talk to you. You, Heather, Grayson, and your family have a wonderful trip to Florida and the happiest of Thanksgivings. You know how much I appreciate all of your work.
You too, man.
Really looking forward to 10 o'clock on Friday as we get into some rivalry stuff across the country and, of course, with South Carolina and Clemson.
Yep.
But thank you so much for what you do for me and my family. You do a great job. I'm honored to call you a friend.
You too, man. You too. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks to Mike Morgan as well, and JC and Keith and Darren. All of you, happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you Friday morning at 10 o'clock right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.